I think you're a bit behind in terms of like where the Democratic Party is, and especially the voters are. That Iglesias article was correct at the time, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
Do you think that it's changed within the past month?
Uh, I don't know exactly when it changed, but let me pull up a piece of polling real quick.
Wait, how is the polling gonna, or what are we polling on? That's
Oh, yeah, sure. So in 2016, one of the questions asked during the Democratic primary was, do you want a candidate that can beat Donald Trump, or do you want a candidate that aligns with you politically? I believe 16% at the time said they wanted a candidate that could beat Donald Trump. Now that is like overwhelmingly 60 something percent of the party that would rather have a candidate that will beat Donald Trump or beat a Republican than they have any interest in specific alignment. A lot of the purity testing that existed in 2016 is just fairly dead. And I think when you
I
look,
don't think we're talking about like purity testing here. I think that article had more to do with how conservatives are allowed to dictate the media agenda on both sides, which I feel
yeah,
like they
and
still do.
I also disagree with that. So, for example, uh, Democrats, because Republicans have sprinted so far right and are just in a personality cult with Donald Trump, Democrats have been able to scoop up a lot of very good and important talking points that Republicans used to dominate. So, for instance, they are now patriots,
Well,
which
yeah. So that's
is
why I was asking you if you mean this has changed. Like, I think in the past like month since the Biden Kamala stuff, I think stuff has changed pretty significantly. But I would say all of this was true up until like about a month and a half ago.
let me think about that for a second.
My biggest example of this was basically the treatment that Biden got after the debate, that there is absolutely nothing that could happen on the face of the earth that Donald Trump could do that would ever get him that type of disfavorable coverage from conservative media outlets. It would never, ever. He could go on stage and start shitting himself. And conservative media outlets would talk about how it was because he was up all night, like doing foreign policy, and he was actually a hero, and he was being so efficient with his time, and that we should all start shitting ourselves like Donald Trump does on stage. That would be it.
I I think I don't like that example because a lot of the criticism was coming from the Democratic side as well.
That's what I mean, though. I'm saying that the conservative side would never, ever criticize Donald Trump for anything. They can't. I think that was the basis of the whole Dominion lawsuit, that they were literally like, we have to lie for Donald Trump. We cannot afford to not appease Donald Trump. But the liberal side seems far more willing at all points in time to shit on other liberal politicians.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but I don't know if I'm that worried about that specifically. I think in 2018 and 2016, the much bigger issue was that like sort of liberal left of center would have this reflexive uh, attempt to be balanced. So they would like overwhelmingly cover Clinton's emails because they would cover every fucking insane thing Trump said. They would be in the headline for a minute, but the Teflon Don thing, nothing would stick to them. The Access Hollywood tapes were massive. But there was
Mm,
this reflex at the time. Do you disagree?
they seem like they were a big deal for all of a week, but I feel like those fell off. I don't think they did any damage to him at all, did they?
Uh, it's hard to say. Um,
They felt like they would have been massive at the time, but I don't know how much. It just seems like they just kind of like slid off, like everything did.
yeah, everything slid off, but now that I don't think that's the case anymore. And I don't think the media, especially, well, I think parts of the media are still trying to do the radical centrist thing, but I think there's now a concerted discipline amongst the Democratic Party that they want to win. They're now, like when Biden was forced out, I disagree with your idea that like voters were disturbed by that or thought it was like some sort of chaos. Um,
Wait,
that
what?
like yesterday or a few days ago, you were talking about how like voters saw the Biden being pushed out by the Democratic Party as a negative, and I think I disagree with that.
When would I have ever said this? It's been overwhelmingly positive. What do you mean?
I don't mean overwhelmingly positive, but the perception of it at the time.
Well, I think the perception of it at the time was incredibly rocky. Yeah, I mean, anybody that wanted to see a new person in would have probably been happy about it. But I mean, it was obviously rocky. You've got like Obama and people leaking to the media that they're unhappy with Biden, who's like holed up at a house deciding whether or not he wants to drop. Like, it definitely wasn't overwhelmingly positive. No, I mean, I don't know what
Oh,
the statement is.
yeah. So my point is that like maybe I misinterpreted your point earlier, but basically the Democratic Party has been operating much more strategically, and I think that's because of the consequences of losing to Trump in 2016. I think that has been bottom up, not necessarily top down. I think people like Nancy Pelosi and like the actual politicians were pretty okay operating at that strategic level, but I think the voters are now on board, having now gone through the consequences of a Trump presidency with going no holds barred, and are willing to basically play whatever they need to do to keep Trump out of office.
Sure, I don't necessarily disagree as of about a month and a half ago, but I still think that before that, I feel like Republicans had a stranglehold on all the media narratives. Like who was Biden interviewing with? Was it 60 Minutes or no, it was somebody else, ABC or NBC, where Biden had to like apologize for the bullseye comments? Like that's insane. That would never happen with Trump anywhere on any conservative media outlet. Biden bullseye comment. Who was he talking to? Oh, this.
Let's talk about the conversation.
It was a mistake. It was a mistake to say in a bullseye. Like this is never happening to Donald Trump on any conservative media outlet, no matter what. Trump could literally come out and say, I'm going to skull fuck every Democratic voter. And the conservative media outlets wouldn't make him account for that, like ever. It would never happen. That's what I mean when I say that like the conservatives seem to control the entire media apparatus, even on the Democratic side, because they can dictate what we have to talk about.
I'm not sure I feel this is Republican control of the Democratic side. I think that was the Democratic side controlling the Democratic side, because I think I don't have any concrete proof of this, but I think Democrats are uncomfortable with anything other than I don't think they could ever let Biden not say any sort of apology in some way. And I'm trying to think. Like conservatives can get away with it because they are basically a monoculture around Trump, and anything that goes against him.
Well,
dies.
it seems like what's happening. I'm aware of this because I deal with this. It seems like what happens is the conservatives have no decorum. They have no standard for behavior. The bar is in hell for their behavior, and the Democrats try to have a decently high standard. So anytime the Democrats don't match their standard, conservatives are always pointing it out. And then Democrats are also having to point it out. Meanwhile, conservatives have zero standards. They don't have to say anything, right? But do you understand how much of a deal conservatives would have made, and how much more fucking is it flagellate? Flagellation? Is flagellate fart?
Self-flagellation.
Yeah. Do you know how much more we would have to self-flagellate if the fucking shooter would have been a Democrat? Or would have like been a donor to like Bernie Sanders or like a big like fucking progressive head on fucking Twitter or some we would have never heard the end of it of all the apologies. But because it was a Republican shooter, they just like brush that under the rug. And they don't say shit about it, and then they move on from it.
But there's another side to that. As a consequence, no one is taking Republican attacks seriously.
But I think that is. Or sorry, God.
And they're losing fucking everywhere.
I agree with that, but I don't think that has to do with them losing this media thing, although they might be kind of losing it now. I think that just has more to do with a combination of like all of the accumulated debt and baggage with Trump and the way that the party was oriented towards attacking Biden, and now Biden disappearing as the target. And now it's like the guy with the red cloak and the bull that just like charged through and there's like nothing. I think that's the issue.
I guess is the unfairness the issue, or because it feels like Republicans have done the strategy over and over and over again of I guess getting into histrionics over tan suits, over every stutter, every stammer from Biden. And now it seems like the median voter is disconnecting from the Republican Party. And you still have like the Trump's cult, but that cult isn't strong enough to carry actual elections anymore.
Possibly. But like the Republican Party has to go through like a huge transformation now. Like there has to be self-immolation and like a rebirth over the next 4 years if they lose. But it's still, the next election is not surefire, right? Like it's still like close.
Yeah. So there are a few things there. There's no way Trump can run again. People really fucking hate losing. So
yeah, I know, but I felt the
surviving.
same way last time. The idea of running the exact same candidate who lost, and then you had your midterm losses, and then you had the people that he was supporting losing, and then you run against the same candidate. But they did it. I wouldn't have assumed in 2020 that he would have ran again in 2024, especially after 2022. I wouldn't have assumed it. But then I think a lot of people, even on the conservative side, when DeSantis was out there, like, oh yeah, this is going to be our dude, and he got crushed. It's like, oh, I guess it's Trump again. So I would make the same assumption if Trump loses 2 times in a row. There's no fucking way he'll run in 2028. But fuck, I don't know. I have no idea.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I like that Republicans keep running losing strategies, and I think they should keep doing it. Please keep talking about how voter fraud is like rampant. Please don't vote. Keep attacking Kamala for her race. I appreciate it. Anything else?
And her gender.
And her gender. Take care, buddy.
Be careful.